Attention problems, to one degree or another, are a common issue for individuals who've suffered any kind of brain damage, either through injury or a disease process. Some injuries are more likely to produce pronounced attention problems. Traumatic brain injury, because of the diffuse damage caused in that type of injury, and because of some of the damage to often to the frontal lobes. Commonly, these individuals have attention problems. Some patients with right hemisphere damage will demonstrate attention problems because, interestingly, the right hemisphere seems to be somewhat dominant for attention. And I say that in very general terms. There are lots of different theories of attention, quite a few different theories of attention, and there's a great history of attention. I know this because I revised a book chapter on it last year. I think what's interesting, what we should focus on with attention is how it's thought of in clinical situations. And in clinical situations, people generally divide attention into different types, and these types are described in your book, such as sustained attention, which, as its name implies, is the ability to maintain your attention on a task, right? So an individual may only be able to sustain their attention to task for a minute. And so a treatment goal may be something as simple as a person is able to sustain their attention to a task for 5 minutes. Okay. Focused or selective attention refers to being able to attend to a task in the presence of some other distraction. So the distraction could be something like a noise going on. And some people with attention problems are very distractible. And we see this, again, really commonly in some patients with TBI. When you are in a restaurant and it's a noisy restaurant and you're having a conversation with someone, you're really taking full advantage of your selective attention abilities, your ability to, in a sense, block out any distracting stimuli, the other voices going on, and just focus on what your conversation partner is saying. One kind of attention that is not mentioned in your text that you will commonly see out there, and I haven't written it down here, but I'll mention it, and that is alternating attention. And essentially what that means is that I'm able to attend to this task and then switch my attention over to a different task and then come back to my previous task, etc. Cooking is a good example of that, right? We pay attention to one thing, then we go over and we do something else, and then we come back to the frying pan and make sure things aren't burnt, flip them over, go back, do something else. So that's alternating our attention. Divided attention is essentially being aware of two things at once. And there's some debate about whether or not people are really able to do that, right? Perhaps what's actually going on is that none of us really pay attention to two things at once. We rapidly alternate between two points of attention. So if I'm driving and I want to make a left turn, I'm at an intersection, right? I am both looking at the light and paying attention to the cars coming towards me, and maybe even hopefully keeping my eyes peeled and my attention on the crosswalk to make sure that there's not a pedestrian there. So treatment-wise, if we think about these different kinds of attention, just to give you an idea, and I'm actually looking at Solberg and Mateer's book on cognitive rehabilitation, which is a great book. And she lists some sustained attention type treatment tasks, and I'll just read some of them out just so you can get a flavor for what people recommend in terms of treating attention. So for sustained attention, one is an exercise that requires listening for a target word or sequence on a recorded tape, and then pressing a buzzer whenever that word is heard. So something like press the buzzer whenever you hear the word car and you're presented with a string of different words. That'd be one example. More in the language domain, being able to doing some type of short paragraph comprehension exercise. So I read you a paragraph and then ask you some yes/no questions about it. That would require your sustained attention. Selective attention, any sustained attention task with some kind of distractor in the background. Visually, sometimes you'll see in some attention training programs, they will take a clear transparent with shapes on it, and then let's say ask a person to read a paragraph with this overlay of lines crisscrossing and distracting them visually from the task, the item they're trying to read. A divided attention task, reading a paragraph for comprehension and simultaneously scanning for a target word. So what that would look like is a person is reading the paragraph knowing that you are going to ask them some questions, yes/no questions, to test their comprehension, while at the same time they have to count the number of ands in the paragraph. So they have to count the number of ands and read for comprehension. That would be a kind of divided attention task.